Welcome to FitBody Lifestyle, the show where we dive deep into the world of fitness, health, business, relationships, and the art of living a balanced life. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Greg, and we're here to give you the benefit of our experiences in the fitness and bodybuilding industry, the corporate world, running a business, personal development, and building healthy relationships.
Whether you're sweating it out in the gym, hustling in your business, or seeking balance in your everyday life, you're in the right place.
So lace up those sneakers and grab that water bottle, and let's get ready to transform our minds, our bodies, and our lives. Hey, FitBody Lifers, welcome to another episode of FitBody Lifestyle, and we have a very special guest today, who's, coach, therapist, friend, family. I don't know, Samm Murphy is the name, and we'll get into that in a minute, but let's tee up this episode and what we're doing, and this is going to be a two-part episode. So episode one, we're going to talk about relationships. And as we have kind of talked a little bit about, this podcast is about relationships, but specifically how those relationships overlay and intersect into your personal life. You guys know that we always talk about bodybuilding is not life, but bodybuilding can make your life better. And part of your life is your relationships and your connections. And that's why we are very honored and privileged to have Samm here today to talk to us about that. And full disclosure, Samm is our therapist, coach, performance mentor, guru, whatever. The list kind of goes on, Samm, in terms of what you are to us. But you have made a significant impact in our lives. You are making a significant impact in our lives. And so we don't do a check-in. Well, we do a check-in word for our guests. I'm just going to give you my check-in word, which is I'm grateful for you and that you are joining us today. But what is your check-in word?
Well, I think you stole mine.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay. He does that. But we can do that, right?
Okay.
It's being in sync.
There's no limitation on the number of people that can own a check-in word.
That's beautiful, Greg.
Thank you. That beautiful is a word. Is that your check-in word? Okay.
I think just grateful, honored and grateful, being with people on their journeys and being able to interact and be a part of life. And like you said, it doesn't just stay coach, it's friend, family, it's all of it. And just caring so deeply and being so honored to be with you in this and grateful for this experience and to see you grow and evolve and strengthen your connection. And it's really amazing. So thank you.
And Samm, I don't know if you want to kind of give a little bit of your background and resume or however you want to
introduce yourself to our listeners.
Sure, absolutely. So my name's Samm. Technically, I guess I would say if I had to label it, which is hard, I struggled with the same thing. What do I want to call myself? And I guess if I had to, I would say transformational coach, right? Because it's really about what are we looking to achieve and to shift, and with the focus on mindset, performance, and connection or relationships, because the quality of our lives really can be determined by the quality of our relationships with others, with our coaches, with our trainers, with our family, with our spouse, with ourselves. And how I got into this space was, I had some things to learn about myself, Is that how we often find it? Before doing this, I was an entrepreneur. I had an orthopedic company. And in that space, we made money and we did things, but I didn't get to see the end product usually. We were selling orthopedic implants. And so even if we were having great impact on someone's lives, I didn't see the patient at the end to see that. And what's so neat about doing this work is the transformation. Where are we at? What are we able to shift through, to recognize, to put awareness on, to heal, to get something that we haven't had or that we really wanted? And that is so rewarding and so exciting. And how I found myself in this space is I had some things in my own life to work through, eating disorder, some sexual assault and different things and issues that started before that, and really went through trial and error of what worked. And I would go see some people and think, that was useful. And other times I'd be sitting across from somebody thinking, seriously? That's all? I remember when I saw a therapist about bulimia, they said, bulimia is bad. I said, yes, I know. Is that it? That's like, should I close my eyes? We're going to do a worksheet? Is there anything we want to try? And so I really had this obsession with human optimization and performance. One of the things too, where I first started to hone in is when I ran the orthopedic company, myself and others, sometimes we would yo-yo with motivation, with results. And I thought, okay, what is it that really drives us? How do we get in there? What makes us tick? What's in our operating system? Because why do we have to do this? Why does there have to be peaks and valleys? How do we learn that we could have this consistent, sustained high performance? What is it? So as I started to dig into that for others and for myself, I started to realize oh, some things under the surface. When I first got into this work, I said, do not tell me about your feelings because those seem messy. Just keep that to yourself. Let's talk strategy. Let's talk about the tactical stuff. And I quickly realized that if I wanted to have profound impact and help people achieve what they really wanted, it's all about what's underneath. What's under the surface? What's happening for us? How's it making us feel? What's that linked to? Where's it coming from? Because we all have an operating system or a default mode network of how things are running. And sometimes we don't slow down to even notice what it is. To then ask ourselves, do we like this programming? Is this useful? Or do we want to pull this file, rewrite it, and reinstall and update the software? So through that, and then being a little type A, I was like, how do we do it fast? A lot. Okay. How do we do it faster, right? Because I'm the type of person that's like, great, I love what we're saying here. We're clear on the objectives. What are the steps so I can do it by Tuesday? And though I want to get there really fast. So that combined with severe imposter syndrome, when I first got into this field of I'm not a doctor. What if I can't help people? So I over-certified in all the modalities. Now, aside from being expensive and taking a lot of time, the benefit of that is I got to see what overlapped in these different modalities. What do they all have in common? What's the secret sauce of this one and that one? And then sort of cherry pick to put it together for this really potent blend, this modality that we can bring that allows us to have the most amount of change in the easiest, fastest way possible. Now, easy doesn't mean it's always easy. And how
change never is, right?
Change never is, right? It's that edge, that growth. That's where we know we're there, right? If we're uncomfortable, we're at something good because we're at our growth edge. And so really from sort of that obsession with how can we do it in the most effective way is what landed me here. And then the continued evolution. When I fail at something, I tend to ruminate on a little bit. So relationships was never a starting point for me. It was performance, that sustained high performance mindset, what drives us, the operating. And what I realized though, is time and time again, I'd work with clients that would come and say, well, I sold the company. They got the thing that maybe they had been chasing that they thought was going to give them happiness, joy, fulfillment, and they didn't feel that way when they got there. So on top of exploring what that was internally for them, what that was in the belief system, where that was coming from, often we would realize, ooh, I haven't felt connected to my wife, or these ruptures in their connection. And when we could repair that, we could really take a big leap because everything gets easier when we're feeling safe and connected in our intimate relationships. We more bravely, courageously go out into the world. We show up as different people, different parents, different partners, different bosses, different leaders when we're feeling safe and seen and important. So I realized, well, actually how it went is I would talk with clients. I say, okay, why don't you go try this? Try this. And they kept saying, can I bring my partner? No, that's not what I do. Can I bring him? No. Can I bring him? Yes, because you are not relay, And then it became something of, okay, when we get together, because so often there's misunderstanding, miscommunication. We are meaning-making creatures as humans. And if we are not delineating and really specifying what's happening for us, why we want something, how we're feeling, our partner, our friend, our parent, whoever we're interacting with is making it up, is making up that meaning, and it's often incorrect. And then we're each having an experience and a feeling. And so when we can slow down and help clear sort of and get back on the same page, because what happens oftentimes, and again, not just intimate relationships, but we go from being allies and teammates and support systems to adversaries. We're hurt, we're upset, we're not speaking about it, we're not clearing the air, and we can get further and further away, which can then create more and more disconnection, more loneliness, these things that aren't feeling good. And then it's like we're carrying a backpack full of rocks. So that's how we got here.
I love it. I love that you shared so much. And really, your background is how I found you. I actually found you through some of the podcasts that I saw you on and getting to hear a little bit about your background and how you are. I love that, you've explored all these different modalities and you have all these tools in your toolbox. As a coach, that's something I really aspire to do as well, is to continue to build my toolbox, because every individual is different. And what works for one isn't the right formula for
absolutely
for everyone. And so I think you've got so much to offer and share here. And just for the listeners, I mean, the reason I reached out to you was really performance. I was feeling a little burned out. I was needing some tools to kind of help me moderate, my type A driven sort of personality. So I was bringing more joy into my life and finding more of the space that I needed to find. And we did dig a little deep and realize there was more relationship stuff. So you got a twofer.
Yes, exactly.
So, I mean, not just for the two of us, but relationships in life. And I absolutely agree that at the base of everything, like, you can accomplish all the things in the world, but if the relationships aren't solid and wonderful and valuable and deep, then it all just feels like for naught.
For what?
Yes.
We're wired for connection, to share with people, to share the experience and the journey. Absolutely.
Yes. I always think about, like, the accomplishments in my life where I felt like I'm climbing that mountain, and it's so hard, and I just can't wait to get to the top. And I get to the top and I'm like, wait a minute, was this the wrong mountain?
Yes. And you're not alone in that. So many people feel that way, or they get to the top and for a moment, if even a moment, yay. Oh, I'm going to go over there now.
Right.
Turns out I wasn't at the top. I can see something else maybe that's the thing that's going to get me what it is that I'm wanting or craving to feel.
Right. Whereas it might actually not be that accomplishment, and that it might be, really kind of taking a minute and stopping and sitting with it and figuring out what are the other areas of life that we need to look at. So
Yes.
I'm excited to delve into this episode and talk more about how to build those better relationships.
Yes, me too.
So I think then the next part is, let's talk about our world a little bit, the bodybuilding world, and some of the challenges that people face in those types of relationships. And bodybuilding is a very individual sport in the sense that you are doing the work. You're prepping your meals. Some people have that added benefit where their significant other may help them prep meals.
Or they have a meal prep company.
Yeah, or they have a meal prep company. But by and large, you're monitoring your own food intake, your own macro intake. You're doing the time at the gym. You're the one feeling the aches and the pains. You're the one who's tired. You're the one who's exhausted. If you're working a regular job, which most of our athletes actually don't work 9-to-5 jobs. They work very challenging jobs. And we have a lot of professionals lawyers, doctors, all those fields. So they're managing all these inputs and these variables seemingly alone. And that can be very isolating, because when you're on stage alone. I mean, it's not like your family and your friends are standing up there with you, at least not physically.
Right.
We encourage them to think beyond that, but that's the world. And in this world of isolationist, it can just feel very alone, and it can feel the opposite of connection. I think that's one of the reasons why people will seek out connections with other quote unquote like-minded individuals. And so the challenges are, I don't know if you want to, I couldn't tell you what the biggest challenge is. I just think that the challenges are, how do you sustain, maintain, and actually deepen those connections to get to the goal that you want,
Right.
or the objective that you want. So I don't know if that tees it up.
Perfect.
Okay.
And when we say the goal, would we say the goal for deeper connection, or the goal of your goal in bodybuilding or professionally?
All of the above.
Yes, all of the above.
Yeah, it's not either. It's not one or the other. I think, people may think that that's their goal, and I honestly, one of the things that we've worked through is, are we goal setting as a relationship? And that it's easy to goal set in business. It's easy to goal set in your fitness. But are you goal setting and setting objectives in your relationships to do the same thing? And that's something that we've talked about a lot.
There you go again, Greg, jumping ahead and taking exactly where I was going. No, I love it. One of the things that's really common is a couple things. Yes, are we visioning for the relationship, whatever relationship that may be? What am I wanting to create with my mom? How am I wanting to feel when I'm around her? And being really clear and intentional. And what that brings me back to is a big myth or thing that can happen in relationships is this idea that when we talk about how do we hit our goals in bodybuilding, I think people say hard work, dedication, effort, discipline, and it's very accepted. How do we get successful in business? Same things. And then there's often this, well, how do relationships work? Well, they just should. Why? Why is there that double standard? And so really sort of dispelling that myth and saying anything that's worth having often takes effort. Relationships are living things. They need to be nurtured, attended to, watered. And so that really starts with getting clear on, what do we want to have? Well, And maybe some relationships we're okay that it's a little surface level or, and some oftentimes we're craving to really be seen, noticed, to feel important. So taking the time to get clear on what that is. And if we have something where they're a willing participant, like an intimate partner, yes, can we dream together? Can we goal set together? Can we vision together? And make sure that we're taking the same principles that allow us to have success in other areas and that we do as routine. And we would probably even accept that if we don't do those, we're not going to get what we want. Yet this other one kind of goes, well, it just should work. And I feel like, we're sold that story. I was going to say a bad word. I don't know if we're allowed to say bad words, but
you can.
That sack of shit, I feel like society and Hollywood, when do we see the movie? And I'm sure there's some out there, but not often is it, we meet partner, things are hard. We work through our trauma and our triggers. It's like, boy meets girl, it's magical. All needs are met. We get together, we have kids, we meet all needs,
And live happily ever after.
Live happily ever after. And what that really does is just sell us a lie. And then we look at that lie and we say, well, it should be like that.
Well, and then we think other people are all like that because we're in this world of social media where, if we look at other people's lives and how they're presented, it looks like everybody's life is perfect. Their relationships
that's all
are
they're
perfect.
Posting about.
Right.
They're posting about the magic. And sometimes they could be hating each other, but look, here we are in the mountains.
Oh, we've seen that a lot. And
Yes.
we see that a lot. It's the marketing. It's marketing.
So a good reminder for people is to always, yes, when you're feeling that comparison bug, whether it's professionally, are we comparing our beginning to their middle or end? Right. And also too, are they marketing the good stuff? Right. What about in the ditches, down in the trenches and everything like that? And so when we're sort of sold this lie, it's really pausing to say, okay, no, that maybe it's just a total reframe around that. Okay, this does take effort. And when we can just start there of, okay, this should take effort, it can remove some of the disappointment or the expectations. And then, because it's really about learning and growth and evolution and how do we learn to flex new muscles. And then the other thing, we were never taught. Often, I'm not going to say never, right? Let's not use those absolutes, but often we were never taught how to have successful relationships, how to communicate, how to feel our feelings, how to manage our feelings, how to process our feelings. And not because our parents were bad or anyone was bad, it just isn't something, and different cultures actually, some cultures do it better than others. They have different values on certain things. Some cultures really value emotion, say maybe South America or something where people do express. And then others are tuck that away, keep that quiet, don't bother people. So pausing and saying, okay, well, I never learned how to do this. And then there's a few ways that we can learn by trial and error, which is slow and painful, or the road to success leaves clues. And if we were going to be a doctor or a lawyer or bodybuilding, people are going to hire you guys to learn how to do it best. We're going to go to med school. We're going to go to law school. And often when it comes to relationships or communication, it's just the sink or swim. Or
there's no roadmap.
There's no roadmap. And the thing is there is a roadmap and a formula. It's just not common knowledge. It's just not commonplace. So when we can start to look and say, okay, there's nothing wrong with me. I'm not failing. And maybe there isn't anything wrong with them either. And can we get curious? Can we get curious as to what's happening for the other person? What's under the surface? Because when we're having an emotion or something is happening for us, we often forget too that other person likely may be having an experience as well, whether it's the same, but something also going on. But because we get often overtaken or overwhelmed by what's coming up for us, we forget. And then again, we're back in that place of adversaries. Oh, they're doing this because now we're giving it meaning as to why they did that. So if we can slow down and get curious, I wonder what's happening for them. We're not going to override our own experience. And we also want to say, okay, what else is possible here? So it can allow us to start to regulate, to slow down. And then from that place, can we start to learn tools and techniques to share, to communicate, to convey our needs, to understand what's happening for them so that we can get back into this place of connection.
I think that when you say the curious piece, it was funny when you were listing your background, one of the things that it's not a very sexy title, but I was thinking you're head inquisitor. And by that I mean, look, well, we've been to therapy together. We've been to therapy individually, and a lot of therapy is the question part, right? Mm-hmm. How does that make you feel? What'd you do then? But et cetera, which is good. And I'm not downplaying that at all. It's important. It's an important part of life. where you have taken us to that next level is asking the questions that we are not asking ourselves, not just about how we feel, but okay, well, what do we do in this situation? Tell me about this. And then what about this? And I mean, there's a lot of questions that you pose to us when we're going through our journey. And I just think that curious mindset is something that I think I have turned it off from time to time in relationships. I just stopped being curious about that relationship. And I think that, between Jamie and I, when we have gone through difficult parts, I have actually stopped asking the questions of how do I make this better? How do I make our relationship and our connection better? And how do we get deeper? And so, that's one of the aha moments that I've had through our time together, Sam.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things too, again, that double standard of we set the goals in business, we set it here, and we keep going. Oftentimes we don't follow those same patterns, right, in relationship. And sometimes why it can be is because it's so vital, because it has such an emotional impact on us, we can feel helpless or frustrated because there's not the path. We feel a little lost. We see again, it's working for everybody else. What am I doing wrong? What's wrong with me? Is it me? Is it them? And the reality is, it's both of us. Mm-hmm. It's always both of us. But with curiosity, there's more to uncover. And every time there's challenge, and I know it's a little cliche, it is an opportunity to have deeper understanding and deeper connection, because now it's forcing us, right, that growth edge, that discomfort, to put it on the table. Because for a while we have existed in a certain way and it got us to a certain level of satisfaction or success. And now as we're continuing to grow and evolve, we now are craving more, demanding more, wanting more. And so really, two key things in relationships is, can we be curious, and then can we start to take ownership? Because it's really easy to blame. And as long as as long as we're pointing a finger, we've got three pointing back at us. And the thing too about ownership is it's not just about, it's their fault, it's our fault, because that part doesn't matter. It's always both responsibility. Even no matter how thin we slice it, two sides, right? Even if one person has more in a certain instance, we still have maybe the way we responded, maybe the tone in our voice, maybe we weren't clear on what we were asking, And so from that place, it's where can we go and what can we do with that when we start to take ownership? And when we start to take ownership, we're empowered, because as long as we say it's them, we're helpless. We're in that victim place. There's nothing we can do. And it's okay to be there for a minute. Right? I do it. This is so sad. What's happening. And then it's okay. Take a deep breath. What could I do differently? Could I ask in a different way? Am I clear with what I'm asking? Because from that place, we now have the power to have impact and effect. And the other thing that's really key for people to know, ideally, both people in a relationship, any kind, are interested to know what they can do different or better. Even though if only one person is in that inquiry and one person is shifting, it can radically shift a whole dynamic, because naturally their response is going to adjust in the way that we show up, whether it's tone, whether it's questions. So sometimes people will ask, my partner's not on board, and it's ideally we want them to get there. But the other thing too, and maybe ninja it a little bit, as we start to shift, it often they notice that something's different. We're happier, we're more relaxed, and there often will invite a curiosity for them to come in to join us.
It's so interesting. And as you're talking about the accountability piece of it, what's going through my mind is that the athletes I see succeeding the most are the ones that when they tell me, they come from a place of taking ownership. When they're like, this is what happened this week. And it's very much that taking ownership. And then also a lot of times even, telling me, here's what I'm going to do going forward.
Yes, the action.
Yes. And so because I have those athletes that want to go, you didn't tell me, or instead of going, okay, here's what happened, here's what I did, here's how I'm going to do that. And a lot of times I might come back and go, actually, it's completely understandable that you did that, and I could have given you this additional piece of information. It's just that kind of give and take of both sides taking that accountability and responsibility. And so I think that's really interesting.
And it invites a collaborative field, right? When I say this is what I could do different, oftentimes the other person, maybe not right away, so don't hold them to it, will say, okay, I see that. And this is what I could do. The other thing that I'd love to encourage people to do is getting clear on, okay, what is our role? What could we do? And then asking for what they need. That's a part that we often miss. Even say coach relationship, the client that's saying to you, this is what you did. Well, if they could take ownership first and then say, what would be really helpful for me is if next time, could you do this? Or what do you think about that? In an intimate relationship too, often our partners want to please us, want to be our hero, want to make us happy. And they're doing their best, but often they're efforting really hard in a way that doesn't have as much positive impact for us. And we're just asking, actually, instead of taking out the trash and washing my car and making dinner every night, if you could tell me that I'm beautiful or that you notice me, or when I'm stressed out, hug me, that puts deposits in my emotional bank account way more than these other things, even though I appreciate those. And that kind of takes us down to understanding, and love language is a thing we could talk about that. But again, it goes in all relationships is, this is what I'm going to do different. And it'd be really amazing if you could do this. Does that work? And then being in dialogue, because maybe you can't do it, or maybe it's something you're not willing to do. And then you get to say, what I can do is this. And that gets us to that place again where we're curious and we're in ownership. Then we're in a solution mode, collaboration. This is what I'm thinking. And then oftentimes we may find solution that I didn't see, or I thought this is what I needed. And you may have an insight that says, actually, that would be amazing. It just puts us, it kind of raises that whole vibration into that place of solution-oriented focus versus blame. Because when we stay in the blame, we're disconnection, we're further away from the goals, we're further away from action, and we're sort of swirling in the wrong direction, that downward spiral, feeling sorry, getting on the story, and all that stuff. So it's like we can feel sorry for ourselves or bad or victim for a moment. And then what tactics do we have to help pull ourselves out of it? For you guys, I think one of the best ways to change state is physical movement, right? Go for a run, go for a workout, go for a walk, take a deep breath, come back. And even asking ourselves the question of what else is possible here? What else is possible that I can't see, that I don't understand? Why Jamie or Greg may have done that if somebody was upset or disappointed. And then two, when there's dialogue, then you get to share why you did make that choice or that suggestion or solution for them. And they may not, okay. And again, that's that assumption based. You told me this because, no, thanks for sharing. Actually, the reason I was sharing that is because of this thing that's maybe totally different. And then again, we're back to teammates. We're back on the same page. And life is just happier and more fun from that place.
I remember when you and I first talked, and one of the things that we talked about is like those minefields that we each have. And it's really interesting that we're all living our own experience from our own background, from our own set of experiences, from our own preconceived notions. And so how often we don't even know necessarily why or what's triggering the other person. And I definitely, have made such an effort to kind of do my best to take a step back. And even now I'm questioning sometimes, how is this person perceiving what I'm saying? Greg always likes to say, do you want to be right or do you want to be effective? Yep. And, this is kind of that thing of I know what I mean. I feel very right and how, but is that what that person's hearing or perceiving? And, kind of how do we get past that? How do we start to identify some of these minefields so we're not constantly setting them off?
Totally. So what I love about that too is, yes, we're always going through life with, we've been living life, like you were saying, planting the little minefields. And so has our partner or any person that we're interacting. And what we do is we're just blowing their stuff up and we're like, whoa, that's a big reaction. What's happening over there for them and what's going on? So one of the things that I love that you're talking about is what's the tool? How can we do it better? Is even just in communication to say, we deliver what we're saying. And then just asking, would you mind sharing back what you're hearing? Because I just want to make sure we're on the same page. And sometimes, because this minefield places, we all go through the world. It's like we're wearing glasses with my version of reality. And your version is different based on what you've been through and your impact and your filter. And mine is too. So I'm going to naturally see something often different than you are. So when we ask them to tell us back, sometimes it will be opposite almost. And it's, oh, wow. Thank you for sharing. Let me clarify again. Not at all what I meant, because they're giving it meaning, or, oh, she's saying that because I'm not doing good enough, or she doesn't believe in me. What meaning are they attaching to it? So when we just say, hey, will you let me know what you heard? Even right in that, sometimes we can catch it, because sometimes people, we think they've got it. They're saying yes, they're nodding, but what they got was their version, which is totally different than what we were trying to deliver.
Which can be dangerous.
Which can be very dangerous in any relationship, so taking that pause to say, hey, what did you hear me say? And doing it again, tone can be a big thing, because if we're like, what did you hear me say?
It is a big thing.
Tone is a big thing. Or, hey, this conversation's so important. You're so important to me. Knowing that the action we're going to take from this moment forward is so important. I want to make sure that we're clear. Would you mind telling me back what you're hearing? And it can be the same with praise, with, structured feedback, criticism, whatever it may be. And just that clarification, because we're having our experience, things are blowing up. And then one of the things too, that's just a growth edge for everybody to notice is when we are feeling emotion or any physical sensation in the body. So if the term maybe trigger or emotions is even new for somebody, a first place to start is, am I having a physical sensation? That gut reaction, the butterflies, and physical reactions could be positive and or negative. But anytime there's a physical sensation in your body, especially a negative one, this is a good point to go, ooh, something's here. There's some sort of trigger. There is something anchored for me before this moment. Because we can go through life and something can happen and you could say something, I could say, ouch, that hurt my feelings. And that's natural. But when I'm having a big physical response, usually that ouch is more than what was just said right here. It's hitting something from the past. And so this is something that happens in a relationship all the time. Dishes in the sink. I'm upset because you're leaving the dishes in the sink and we're fighting about the dishes in the sink. We're not really fighting about the dishes in the sink. We're fighting about when you leave the dishes in the sink, what's the impact on me and how does it make me feel? And if we can slow down, and again, there's some framework for how we dig a little deeper in that curiosity. It's, when you leave the dishes in the sink, actually, it makes me feel like I have to do everything on my own. And it makes me feel alone and it makes me feel helpless. And it reminds me of when I was little and my parents were never around. Ooh. Okay, and that happens in an instant for us all the time. One thing is said and it brings us back to 4 years old. It brings us back when we didn't have choice. It brings us back maybe to a helpless state. And oftentimes we then get hijacked or taken over by these parts and we're no longer two adults engaging. I'm now 8. And I'm protesting because I want you to see me. I want you to understand me. And often part of human nature is when we don't feel seen or heard or understood, like children, we get louder. It's almost like throwing a temper tantrum because there's a part of us that feels that it's effective. But then when we get louder, usually the person we're communicating with will shut down or get scared or feel confused. So when we can just slow down and start to understand what's there, then we can start to move through it. Another key in this is when we notice somebody coming to share something with us. Part of human nature, we don't want to hurt people we care about. That's the opposite of what we all want to do. So when somebody comes and says, when this happened, I felt bad or it hurt, human nature is to defend or to justify, to say, well, I did it because, or that's not true. I didn't do that. And what we're doing in that moment is we're invalidating that other person's experience, and then we're creating more disconnection. So another key phrase in communication in all relationships is, help me better understand that. And even if we think they're crazy and that they're wrong and that is so unfair because I did so much for you, right? That's our response coming up. If we can just pause, help me better understand that. It's not admitting guilt. It's not accepting blame. It's just getting curious so that they can uncover and share. And then the other thing that's beautiful, sometimes as humans, we have responses and we don't even know how to articulate what's happening for us. So when someone can presence with us and witness and say, help me understand that, it invites the other person to dig a little deeper. And often they will uncover something for themselves they weren't even aware of. And now we get to see them in a whole new way. Again, no assumption, with the clear understanding of, oh, wow, you thought leaving dishes in the sink was no big deal because the thing that was the most important was doing that later so you could have time to connect with me, which makes perfect sense as well. And then when you realize, oh, that dish in the sink has really big, I guess I could put it in the dishwasher. And then there's that action piece. But when we don't get clear, it's why you busting my balls about the dishes. I do so much. I do all this other stuff. And you have your own system of operating. Actually, Brad, my husband and I, he's very tidy, very neat freak. I am less. And one day we went through this exercise.
You're different.
I'm different.
I wouldn't say less.
Yeah, different. That is not as high on my priority list. And what was interesting that we identified is when I'm done with the day, when I'm done with clients, when I'm done with things, the thing that feels the most important is to get to the kids or to get to him. So I look at the stack of papers or the pile and I say, I can do it later. And then once he could understand, it wasn't something against him. It wasn't a choice of, I don't care what you think or what you need. I'm going to leave that right there. It was because you're so important to me, I'm leaving that right there. And then he could explain how it makes him feel. Well, when things are a little messy, I can't relax, which is not in my operating system. I'm like, I can ignore it and come back later. And then there's just that deeper understanding of, okay, I can work to tidy that up, but maybe I'm not going to have it 100% the way you want because I want to come be with you all. But a beautiful place is when we slow down, we get there and we can uncover that. But often we go so fast making assumptions that we just get more and more in disconnection and then isolation and then hurt. And we often aren't encouraged. I want to know what you're feeling. I want to know. And I imagine, with clients, some clients may have never had an engagement where somebody cared deeply, where somebody saw them, so it could be new for them to even come share requests, unhappiness, or whatever it may be for them, So just inviting people in our lives in all areas, hey, this is important. Our relationship's important. I want to know if there's something that you need. I want to know if there's something that you're craving, and this is what I would love. And some people are going to be like, what are you doing? This is different. And then that's okay too. And not taking offense to that and remembering that everybody's the main character in their own story and other people are extras. But a lot of times we take whatever it is, let's say we're dating and somebody doesn't choose us. Rejection. I'm not enough. I'm not this. We have no idea. Maybe they're going through a health crisis. Maybe they're, and so looking at, okay, what meaning am I giving this? What am I making it mean about myself? What am I making it mean about them? And can we just create a little more pause to ask, what else is possible? Or is that inherently totally true?
Yeah, it's so interesting as you're talking about this. I'm thinking about one of the things Greg and I have talked a lot about, which is giving each other the benefit of the doubt, and that doing that in life in general. And kind of one of our origin stories is that, when our first official date, we had set a time. And for me, timeliness is very important and it's tied to childhood stuff for sure. Right. So when he wasn't there on time, immediately there's my landmine, my trigger going off. And I'm, all these things, I'm feeling rejected. I'm feeling like he doesn't care enough. This date isn't important enough to him. All these things are coming up, and then, another 15 minutes goes by and I'm going deeper and deeper. Yep. I'm getting deeper into that childhood hurt that's boiling up. And then by the time he got there 45 minutes late, I was ready to strangle him. And then he comes in with the biggest, most beautiful roses I've ever seen in my life. And he had driven all the way across town, and it ended up taking him longer than he thought it would, and that's what made him late. So it was just it's kind of interesting how, these two different perspectives we have. He wanted to do something special for me because he wanted to show that the date did mean a lot to him. Whereas for me, like being on time was, something that was really very, very important to me. And so kind of learning each other from that perspective and me learning that I need to give him the benefit of the doubt rather than jumping to these conclusions. But it's very hard to do.
And we get hijacked when it hits our triggers. Right? Because we no longer are a sane, rational adult.
I was not.
Right? That's and when we fight with each other or communicate or whatever we want to call it, we often will not be in our full adult self with critical thinking and being rational. We are taken over by emotion. So again, it's having some frameworks of how do we slow down? How do we remember and start? We're on the same team. And then from the same team, if we can do the benefit of the doubt, or we can work to flex that muscle to remind ourselves, okay, I know that he loves me. I know that I'm important. First dates, maybe we didn't know that yet, right? but okay.
Which I did already.
Yeah. But who doesn't, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then also too, once we start to realize these things, to share even values. Because for him, it was, this is going to have such this positive impact and I want to show her. And just once we get into things, what, timeliness for me is so important because again, it's not late. It's not 10 minutes or 45 minutes. It's, can I trust you? can I trust you with my life and my finances and my heart and our kids and what it goes, we take it and we extrapolate it to a lot of places. Whereas somebody else who doesn't have that same value or emphasis on that is like, it's messy, it's 45 minutes, I'm here, like, I love you, what? It's great. And so when we start to share, and again, that deeper understanding, and the benefit of the doubt, always benefit of the doubt in all situations. And again, the thing with benefit of the doubt that can help us get back there is that what else is possible or what else maybe is happening that I don't see or I don't know that can allow us to drop back into that place.
So much easier said than done.
Yes. It's like flexing muscles, right? We know about working out and flexing muscles, and the more we do it, the stronger we get.
Which is true, and it really sparks this thought. And I want to move on to something else, but I do want to capture this at least. Is that, I think a lot about as we talk about this. If I'm listening to this, I might be thinking, God, man, there's so much complexity around relationships, and how do I do this right? And one of the things, Sam, that has really come into my clear view and close range view is that it's not as hard as you might be thinking. It's not as hard as you may be making it out to be. And I'm going to just I'm just going to talk about just one little micro moment of you talking to us at one point about the importance of just stopping. And I think the way you can tell the whole story about this, but just when I know Jamie is going through something, just hugging her and telling her it's going to be okay. And the power of just that simple action. And on top of that, it's like, on the flowers and the time, yeah, I screwed up. I didn't know I was screwing up at the time. I had the best of intentions, but the analysis that I go through now with her is that, okay, yeah, that's not the way I would do it. But if it's the way that Jamie likes it done, how much is it really putting me out to do it that way? Is my ego keeping me from adjusting to doing it that way, knowing that it's going to have a profound impact on her and thus bring us closer together and therefore produce a better relationship and a better experience for me? It's almost like cutting off my nose to spite my face. No, I'm going to just dig into the way I'm going to do it because it's my way. Mm-hmm. And just those simple actions of, taking it back to where I started this, which is, how is that? I don't know. Walk us through that a little bit, because I just think that's so important.
Yes.
About the simplicity.
The simplicity. And one thing I want to touch on before we move is the ownership piece. We're human. We're all going to screw up. But what allows our partner to feel safe and foster trust is when we can go, yep, I messed up. I didn't realize. I'm sorry. Because then our partner goes, oh, he sees it too. That makes sense. Okay, gone. I'm going to release it. When we don't take ownership because we feel bad, again, we don't want to disappoint her or hurt her. So sometimes we could defend that. Well, I did this thing for you and you're unappreciative. Now she's going, oh, wait, that doesn't feel safe at all. He can't see it. He can't acknowledge it. So just by owning our stuff and the parts that don't want to own our stuff, looking at what is that for us? What part resists? What part doesn't want to be bad? What part doesn't want to fail? And owning that, because we're human. And it's about going, ooh, my bad. Okay, thanks. And when too, and this was part of the simplicity, a lot of times I think people think, how are we going to solve this? It's so hard, it's so complex. Sometimes it can be an acknowledgement, a simple validation of, I see that hurt you and I'm sorry. That doesn't even mean that I'm bad or that I would do it different. It means that there was something I didn't see, that I didn't know in the moment. And when we can own that, it's like a clean slate that we get to start over. So what you were saying too is, and this happens all the time, we look at it and it's like, ooh, there's a lot of ideas and I want it, but no one taught us. So it can seem very complex and hard. One of the things that I work with couples on, and this works for anybody, is almost what I call like a relationship cheat sheet. And that's what we got to do together, is what makes you feel really loved or supported or cared for, whatever the partner may be craving. Right? Or if we're feeling very stressed out and overwhelmed, okay, what is something that helps regulate your system? And as we can uncover that because she has the answer, she knows. But again, often it's we're making an assumption of how we can best solve it, how we can best. If we slow down though, and we just ask, then it's when I'm feeling that way, if you notice, because a couple things are happening in that, even though it's simple. First of all, you're noticing her. You're noticing her experience. That offers safety. She gets to feel seen. She gets to feel important in that, okay? And then you're attuning to her, right? And for some people, it will be a hug. For some people, it would be a phrase. And often those phrases are going to reflect maybe what we didn't have growing up. You know, that like, I'm right here, or it's all going to be okay. You know, and when we hear the phrase that's right for us, it allows our nervous system to sort of just, you know, and then for you too, it's like, okay, well, that's not the way I was going to do it. And then part of the experiment is, oh, it works. Because sometimes too, when we break it down so simple, what I'll hear from people is, can't be that simple. Can't be that easy. I'm like, try it. Humor me. Just try it a few times. Because then when she gets to reset, adult's back. Because we all get stressed. We all get sad, different things coming at us. And the gift of relationship, partnership, friendship is that we do get to help regulate and heal each other. The other thing that's so amazing about relationship is, yes, it brings up our triggers. It brings up our pain points. And it can be rocket ship for like healing and growth, because we get to gift and offer each other what maybe we didn't get growing up or at some point in our life. You know, so when you do that for her, she gets to feel important and supported and safe and seen. And by that simple little piece, so much can happen. Because when he's able to notice for you and give you the how is that for you?
Oh, it's amazing. And I mean, as you're talking through that, I mean, I'm thinking about, you know, the times, you know, in my life where I've been the most productive and the most successful is when I felt the most grounded and rooted in my relationship and my relationships. So, you know, absolutely, I you know, which is, you know, kind of the work, you know, so like me coming to you initially, like, you know, I want to be my best performer in life, but then it going back to the root of, you know, some of these things we're talking about, but it can feel hard even though it's simple. So
well, it's new muscles, right? Because even if we take a piece of paper and the relationship cheat sheet, and that's something that I have that people could like download, and you just fill out the blanks and you give it to the other person, and it's almost like, when in doubt, let me look at the sheet, you know, because it can feel overwhelming. It can feel like, I don't know. Again, he loves you so much. He doesn't want you to be stressed and dysregulated. So it's, what's the way? And he has a default way that he's going to attempt to do it. But then when he can remember and start to flex that muscle, eventually it becomes second nature. Oh, it's a hug. And then also too, if we're not communicating, another piece that can come into that is, she's upset. Is she upset at me? Did I do something? You know, and we can ask that. And either way, whether we did something or it's something else, offering that hug and being like, I'm right here with you. Is there anything I can do to help? Even just asking that, can I help in any way? Or help me I see something's happening for you. Anything I can do? Because again, in that acknowledgement, so much is seeing each other, acknowledging each other. And then there's intent of that, oh, they want to help me. Oh, okay. And even if we are mad, even if she was upset at you, it's, okay, well, you're here asking, you're here to help. Some of that can release, where then maybe it feels safer to say, you know, I was feeling disappointed this morning. Because again, sharing and communicating is also a new muscle for many of us, because many of us grew up, whether in a family, in school, in society, that we're not always encouraged to say what's wrong. It's go sit down, go back to your desk, you're fine, stop crying. And really, so we learn to shut that off, to tuck those down and to push them away. And so we're learning to do new stuff, and we can do it in simple ways by just taking some time to ask our partner, what makes you feel the most loved? Oh, no shit. I've been trying to do all these other things. No wonder maybe we're having disconnection. That's not natural for me, but I'm going to set an alarm in my phone until I remember how to do it. You know, it's kind of, sometimes it can seem simple, but the simple things aren't like always, or common sense isn't always common practice, right? So when we get it, it's really...
Jamie always says common sense ain't so common.
Right, yeah. Right? Same thing. So how do we too treat it? And again, that looking at it, the same way we'd look at a business or to look at something. What is our goal? What's our objective? And like you said, Greg, okay, this isn't the way I would do it, but like, is that going to get me closer to my goal? Yes. Okay, that seems like good reason, you know, that I'm going to work to do it in this different way.
And that skill really takes the effort and the awareness, I think, of just putting that space between stimulus and response.
Yes.
And that's really at the core, I think, of everything that I work on with myself. And I failed the other night because we were having a discussion and Jamie was showing me something and I went into my own space and I walked away, and it wasn't meant to be disrespectful to her, but I was just in my feels and thinking about what I was thinking about, but I didn't communicate that with her. I didn't tell her, hey, this is what's going on with me. I just need a break. I need a pause. And we worked through that last night, and I appreciate you helping us with that. We're at time on this episode, and guys, I feel like we have so much more to unpack, and so this will be a 2 or 3 part series. I don't know however many we get, but we will come back to some topics about mental state and mindset, and we may touch a little bit on relationships. And I don't know, is there something else you want to cover with Samm?
What else? Is there anything else you would like to cover with us?
I think that's great, and we'll see what else comes out as we hit it. But yeah, I think, just bringing more awareness to all of it. I think that's the biggest thing, right? How do we start to have more awareness? And then, like you said, a little space or pause between impulse and reaction to get more into choice. So as we start to have more awareness, then we can be empowered to start to have more choice, to make different choice, to have different results.
I love that. So before we end this episode, why don't you tell people how to connect with you if they want to?
Yes, please. So they can find me on my website, which is Samm Hunter, which is Samm with 2 M's, hunter.com. And I recently got married. So you'll see Samm Murphy some places. You'll see Samm Murphy Hunter. It's really changing the name is like a whole thing.
It is.
And then on Instagram, it's Samantha with 2 M's Hunter. So at Samantha with 2 M's Hunter.
Awesome. And remember to like, comment, subscribe, leave your reviews and your comments. Did I get that? Questions?
Yes.
Okay.
All of
I always mess that up.
All the things.
I always mess that up. But we really do want to bring you the content that you want, and we do pay attention to that. So whatever you can do to help us help you, which is why we're here. And remember the 3 B's, which is be good to yourself.
Be good to each other.
And be safe. Take care, everybody.
Thank you for tuning in to FitBody Lifestyle. We hope today's episode has left you feeling motivated and equipped to tackle your fitness goals, business challenges, and the daily dance of life. Remember to value progress over perfection. Life's tough enough alone. Find the chosen family around you to help you along the way.
If you enjoyed today's episode, we'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and leave us a review on your favorite streaming platform. And don't forget to follow us on Instagram at FitBody Fusion.